Welcome to the Way to Go podcast. I'm here with Pastor Eric. we're gonna talk about. It's really story time. Actually, we're just gonna.
I'm excited for this. I love this kind of stuff.
I know. We're gonna tell some stories from experiencing nature, where God is. Obviously, if you look at natural theology, which is one branch of theology, is what do you learn from nature? You learn God is powerful from his
general revelation type
type stuff. Yeah. I mean, look at the stars of the sky, look at God's handiwork. It's constantly talking. So when you get out there in nature, you definitely have a chance to be reminded of some different lessons. So
yeah, absolutely. So I want to share one of, I actually served in some national parks through a ministry organization right after college. So I spent 6 months in Big Bend National Park, which no one's ever heard of. It's in Southwest Texas, right on the Texas-Mexico border. And then right after that, 6 months, I spent another 5 or 6 months in Glacier National Park up on the border of Canada. Right. So border to border, two very different ecosystems, both on ministry organization. So I had a chance to...
And how many months at each place did you stay?
About 6.
Right. So average. You spent a year in national parks doing ministry there.
Yeah. And I tell you what, man, it is the coolest thing to live where people literally from around the world vacation.
Right.
And to see things that other people could only dream of.
Right.
You see a glimpse of, if you're in a park, you're there for 2, 3, maybe a week max if you're if you're big into it.
Right.
But other than that, man, I've seen things. I've hiked trails that people, or hiked off trail even, that people just would dream of.
Right. So it is amazing. I mean, seeing a tree, like out in the Sequoias, seeing a tree. It was the biggest tree in the world. It's called General Sherman. So I guess they settled the park after the Civil War. So because it all had Civil War and political names. Mm-hmm. So they had General Grant was one tree, second biggest tree in the world, but the biggest tree in the world. Some of these trees that they've actually either fallen down or maybe they took down, whatever. I mean, they're over 2,000 years old, over 3,000 years old. Some of these trees would have been around close to the time when Moses was getting the 10 Commandments. Some of these
little saplings at that point, I'm sure.
Some of those trees predate Jesus Christ coming to the planet.
Holy cow.
That's how old, that's how long they've been there. So then I sit around, I worry like, well, what did they catch fire? It's just smoke everywhere, and out in especially out in California, wherever we were, we saw smoke because of all the forest fires. Well, we saw a lot of signs of forest fires. Obviously, those trees aren't too worried because they've been there like 2,000 years, and they haven't gone anywhere yet, and they're not going to go.
They've seen a lot of fires in their day, I'm sure.
There's plenty of trees with burn marks, but just the way those trees are created, they last.
Man.
So it's pretty, it's pretty humbling. I think that one thing I noticed is just how small I am because you get out there, the distance between the parks. We drove 2,300 miles to get to 7 national parks. Wow. We hiked miles in it. I think you have to get out and experience. I'm one of those people where don't just stop at the tourist place. Like go walk in it, like experience it.
Oh yeah.
Go down part of the Grand Canyon and walk back up it. Experience, even if you don't go all the way to the bottom of it, experience part of it. Walk a rim trail, even if it's only a mile of a rim trail. Walk part of it so that you can kind of experience it and get an actual feel for where it is. But I was reminded of the verse where it says that, who is man that you're mindful of him? Yeah, God cares for us. And so, I'm like, I'm really small, man, compared to this and compared to how big and how vast these parks are. And this is part of one country in a bigger world and a bigger universe. And I'm just a little tiny part of it, really.
Oh, yeah, that's incredible. Someone kind of made the argument to me one time. They said national parks, being a protected hunk of land, like essentially untouched by man, essentially,
right,
would be like the last remaining remnants of the Garden of Eden in the sense of untouched.
Right.
Perfect as is, if you will.
Right.
And I have a hard time arguing that, with the exception of sure, there's a couple roads, a gift shop, that kind of thing. Other than that, massive hunks of land with just nothing.
Right. Except there are the pests there. Now, one of the hikes that we did, we're in Sequoia, and Kings National Park is right next to...
Kings Canyon?
Yeah, Kings Canyon National Park, right? Kings Canyon is right next to Sequoia National. So, and there's also a national forest in there between. So it's kind of like some of the roads owned by... would be run by Sequoia National Park, some Kings Canyon, some just the National Forest. So somebody told me part of the road was shut down because the National Forest shut down, even though one day because of all the smoke, even though the parks didn't. but you couldn't get to the one park since you needed the same road, and they all shared the one road. But anyway, we decided to go to Road's End and hike in the Paradise Valley to Mist Falls, which was 4.5 miles, and then to go up to Paradise Valley because I wanted to get a picture there, which we ended up pushing ourselves, and we did get it done. It was a 2-hour drive, one direction, just to get from where we were staying in Sequoia National to Road's End, because the roads are so, even though it might only be 30 miles, it's twist, turn, twist, turn, twist, turn. It's kind of crazy. But one thing that I think that you have to remind yourself too is no matter what you think or what you have to get out there and see what happens, it's not perfect. Like we get out in Kings Canyon, and the first thing that happens to us is bugs just come out of nowhere. You know, we didn't see really any in Sequoia, but we got there. There were these gnats that, I'm not saying they were as big as bumblebees, but they were bigger than your normal gnats, and they were like constantly in your face. So I get out of the car and I'm looking around. This lady has a net over her, she looked like a beekeeper, and I'm like, that's goofy. Like, that's really weird looking. Why would she be doing that? Like, she can't handle it. Look at her. That's horrible. Next thing I know, the next 10 people I see have the same net over their face, because all of them know there are bugs everywhere. So here you're out in pristine beauty. It doesn't make it perfect. I think that's like life a lot of times. You know, it's like, yeah, life is beautiful. It doesn't mean it's perfect. You know, sometimes there are gnats. Yeah. Sometimes, you know, there are gnats that happen. There are gnats in marriage. There are gnats in your family. There's gnats with people. There's gnats. It's just gnats sometimes. It doesn't mean it's not beautiful. You want to
swat.
Yeah, I swallowed quite a few bugs, by the way. Like, a number of them did not make it after my hike.
How fast were you hiking?
Dude, you had to breathe. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were that heavy on your face, man. They were like, you practically had a beard of gnats. And yeah, I definitely ate some of them. You were glad when you got to higher elevation. They thin out in sunny spots. Okay. So, and then you'd encounter them. And
was it really like damp or like really in the woods, really dark?
Not that I know of. It's pretty dry. No, this is pretty spacious evergreen trees. But that was one of the things I wrote down. You were saying, hey, what are the things that you learned? I think some of the things I learned on the trip was just be flexible. Because like we go to hike the Narrows on one day out in Zion National. Well, we didn't know we had to have shuttle passes like at least a day ahead, if not really weeks ahead. Yeah. And so we weren't aware of that, and we didn't really know anything about the private shuttles. And at that point in the day, we figured everything's probably booked. So we went and hiked a different part. We had to come back 2 days later, actually. So we had to backtrack to Zion to hike the Narrows. You just have to be flexible, because sometimes like, okay, well, I didn't really think I was going to be hiking the Kolob Canyon. I hadn't really heard of the Kolob Canyon. Yeah. It was a super beautiful place, and I'm glad I went there. But that was just because, well, hit a roadblock here, change plans. Yeah. And I think that's life too. I think there are times where you got to roll with it a little bit. You got to roll with it a little bit, right? I mean, it's really a beautiful place, but you know, you learn that, yeah, be flexible, and it's not always perfect.
Yeah, definitely. So you have multiple points that you...
Well, I mean, to me, it's like, I think that, you know, you take what's around and use it even. We were there and there was smoke. It was so disappointing. I mean, you first come in and you're driving in out of Las Vegas. We just stayed overnight. We drive out at like 5:30 in the morning. I see a sunrise in Nevada, so we pull off to a road. I don't even know if we were supposed to be on the road. It was in a little town called Jean, Nevada. I'm sure you've all never heard of it. Like I didn't. There's really not much there. And we went on a road that went to a quarry. I think it was like 5 miles long. I saw one vehicle there. It was a cop. I saw a lot of shotgun shells along the side of the road, so I was wondering what the heck these people do there. So this is where I'm going to take sunset pictures. I'm like, if I don't want to kill anybody, but if I did, I want to throw a body, it might have been right there on that road, because it was pretty desolate. So, but we watched the sunrise come up, and we did that. And then we were driving we get into Southern California, and we're on our way up to Sequoia, or wherever I was in California. Maybe it wasn't Southern California. It could have been middle, northern, who knows, California. So we're driving through. You can't see much because there's so much smoke from those forest fires. We drive into Sequoia that day, layers of smoke. We're up on Morro Rock, where you have one of the best overviews in the whole park. It'd be a great overview if it wasn't smoke-filled. Yeah, sure. And it was a little disappointing, to be honest. However, I'll say I got some pretty mystifying looking pictures because of all that smoke. Like some of the yellow all the yellow haze, it looks like yellow clouds all over the mountains. I mean, they were beautiful pictures that I was able to get because it was smoky. So sometimes you look at it and say, well, it's not what I want, but I'll take advantage of the smoke.
Yeah.
And I'll use that to my advantage to make a more mysterious looking photo. It's not what I thought I would find, but I'm going to take it and use it.
Not my ideal situation. Not my wishes right here.
Right. Not my ideal situation, but I think that's life too. So yeah, as you're out there in the parks, you know, you come across certain situations where, okay, this is not ideal, but you know what? I can still use it in my advantage because I think that it's what you make it. Like for us, we push through a lot of things, but the trip is what you make it. You know, you can get soured and just like, well, smoky, I'm going to hunker down in my room. We were hiking when it was unhealthy to hike. Well, we're here, you know, and we're going to go out. We're going to make the most of it. We're going to make the best of it of whatever situation that we encounter.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's just a positive way to look at your life. You know, whatever I encounter, I'm just going to use it for the best.
Yeah, definitely. When I was in Glacier National Park, I was working at the lodge, right? It was called Lake McDonald Lodge, right on the beach of Lake McDonald. Lake McDonald is a lake 10 miles long, beautiful lake. And actually, I was in my office. I did just a quick Google search of Glacier National Park, and I looked at the pictures, and they're all mountainous pictures, phenomenal pictures. But if you scroll through a little bit, you see the pictures of the lake with the mountain on the horizon, and these just phenomenal, just vibrant colored rocks, these stones, these pebbles in the water. And my biggest like takeaway, like when you're on the beach, it's just a million dark, gray, dusty covered rock. They're just rocks. There's really nothing special. But when they are in the water, when you toss it in, that dust washes off. And then you have these just gorgeous red, yellow, marbled, brown, green rocks. And they're just so cool to look at. And my spiritual like emphasis on it is like when you are covered in Christ, when you are serving, when you are using your gifts, and I have highlighted 2 Corinthians 5:17, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come, the old is gone, the new is here. And like that's what I see like in these rocks. To be fully submerged, to be fully covered in Christ, like true beauty just shines through, and it's so awesome to see. And that's kind of see with people too. Like I've known a lot of people before they accepted Christ. I mean, some of them were fun to be around, whatever, but they weren't, I don't know, I suppose great people.
Right.
But to see like their transformation now, to see who they are submerged in Christ with their new identity, oh man, it's awesome.
Christ brings out the best
awesome
in you, right?
To see that. Yeah. And that was one of my biggest spiritual takeaways from the time in Glacier. I tell you what, and that was just rewarding. And I think back to that often. I look through my Instagram often. I'm like, man, to see God at work through that, and just what we were talking about, opening up the general revelation of how God has used those 6 months in my life. And I think back to it every day. Every day.
Well, I see a lot of your posts come out. Actually, your pictures still get shared at times, like featured on national park pages. They still come back and find them. I mean, years later, and I see your memories come up. You have memory from 2016, 2017, whatever it is. I always enjoy it. There are great photos, you know, and beautiful places, you know, where you got to be. I think it's a blessing too. You know, you realize like I was out there 10 days. I was, by the end of it, looking forward to being back in flannel shirt weather. It's pretty hot.
Yeah, right.
I was. We landed in Las Vegas. It was 114 degrees.
Man,
I've never been in weather that hot. It was like somebody's blowing a hairdryer right in your face because it was windy. And then it was cooler in different places. It would cool down at night and stuff. But I was looking at the temperatures in Ohio and saying, yeah, it's going to be 59 degrees. I'm out to 100 degrees right now where I am. But I see on Saturday and Friday or Sunday, whatever it is, going to be 59. I'm looking forward to that. You know, I'm looking forward to cool temperatures because I was in heat for so long. And it makes you appreciate, I think, where you live, and, you know, wherever you are, there's beauty.
Yeah.
And you have to find it. I think that, you know, in natural theology, like the one thing I thought about as you go through the parks, how many people are really seeking God because nature is supposed to point you to God. And I'd wonder about it, you know, as I pass people. Sometimes you wonder, Like, how's God leading me? You know, I'm here, I'm seeing all this stuff. You know, how's he leading me? Is there someone who needs to be prayed for? You just want to be open to it. But I think appreciating just where you are, even though, yeah, we don't have the cool mountains out west. I'm going to tell you guys something about it. Not many people live out there in some of these places where I was.
Oh, yeah.
It's beautiful to look at. You can't live there. It's just not a livable kind of place. And so I look at it and say, I'm glad for where I live. You know, I appreciate the things that God has given to me. I don't need to have, you know, all that big grandeur. You know, I love it. I love the beauty that I see here, but I also look for it all the time. Like, I'm a person who, I'm always looking for what's beautiful. I'm looking for something that's unique. I'm looking for something special. I didn't come into Ashtabula County and think, and have the attitude that some people have. They'll call it trash Tabula, right? That was never my attitude. I'm like, no, I will never rip on a place where I live. To me, that's like going to the bathroom on your own floor. You know, why would I do that? You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to rip on where I live. I'm going to look at the beauty, because one thing I love about out here, we do have some elbow room. We're not all living on top of each other for the most part. There's parks all over. I mean, we have Girdle Road. We have the lake. We have Chapin Forest Reservation. You've got...
there's tons of exploring to do out here, nonetheless.
Right. I mean, you have so many great parks they're not... And then you have Cuyahoga National, which is a national park. And
that's a national park an hour away.
Right. So, I mean, that's a beautiful place. So I just look at it and say, you always have to look for the beauty and see the positives in whatever, you know, you kind of get handed in life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's why I ride my bike so much. I get to be outside. You know, that's time by myself, time to pray, time to get some fresh air, get my own exercise, and just see some stuff.
Right. I think another lesson, though, that you learn when you're out there is just be prepared. Because you have to have, like, I ordered a bottle of, like, a water bottle that had a filter in it. It was pretty expensive. I mean, by the time I got it shipped to me, it was $100. But you can take water anywhere in the world and fill it up, and it'll filter it to make it drinkable. So not salt water, but I'm saying any fresh water. And you go to take out all the bacteria and all the stuff that's bad for you, and it'll make it drinkable. And I always had that full. Now, I thought a couple hikes I was going to have to go find a stream, because I was really close to being out of water. But we were at least prepared enough that we took enough water with us that we never ran out on any hike and never allowed ourselves to get dehydrated. But that's something you have to think ahead of time before you go out. Like, we'd have to think about, do we have a map in our pocket?
Right.
Like, do we know? You got to talk to people, too, along the way to kind of, like, I only took hiking shoes with me. We knew we were going to go to the Narrows, which was hiking through a river. Jerry and I both brought our water shoes. I was amazed at how many people were hiking into the Narrows in normal hiking shoes and sneakers. I'm like, do you guys not know what you're about to hike into? Like, you have no idea.
You have to look into it.
Right.
Count the cost.
They seemed like they were completely ill-prepared for the hike. They were,
and some people are.
Right. They were.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, because you lived out there. I think that, you know, you want to go have fun and you want to experience life, but you got to be prepared for the different things that you're going to face. I think spiritually prepared. I think, you know, you shouldn't be doing stuff without praying about it first. You know, you got to think about it. Hey, if I'm going to go do something for the Lord, I need to be praying about that. I need to seek his counsel. I need to prepare myself for what I'm about to do. So I thought, even though we planned the trip actually a couple weeks in advance, we're very prepared. You know, we knew where we were going to go. We had all the rooms reserved. We had maps in case, you know, our navigation went out. We had real maps, you know, so that we would know exactly where we were going. We had apps on our phone, you know, all the things that we felt that we would need for that trip.
It's important to do your homework.
Except the bug net. That's one thing we didn't. My wife said, I will never hike that area without wearing a net over my face, no matter how dorky it looks. She said, I'm wearing that because those bugs were...
Right.
They were aggressive. You know what I'm saying? And they were more annoying than anything, actually, but be prepared.
Yeah, definitely. Count the cost, look ahead at things. And I tell you what, it is nice to do it on your own, to experience that kind of thing, but it is way better with people.
It is.
It is way better with people around you.
It is. I noticed a lot of people, I was actually kind of sad about it. And you kind of explained it to me a little bit, like you were working the park. So there were times you were walking alone. I was shocked by how many people I saw, both men and women, hiking all by themselves. And I wondered, is this where we're going in our society? Is this where we're getting to, where people are just that alone, that they're just hiking by themselves? Now, maybe some people enjoy the solitude. They just want to get out there and enjoy it. But I wouldn't want to do it alone.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. And in fact, I wouldn't do it alone. if I wasn't married, I'd go out with a group of people. I'd talk my buddies or something into going with me so that you would have people to go with just in case something happened.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not good to be alone. So I would say, keep working on your friendships too and your relationships. I think that, having people to be with you in life makes life better.
Absolutely. We're meant to be in community.
Absolutely. So anyway, hey, just some lessons from being out there. I mean, those are some things, my takeaways from being out in 7 national parks, which was a great experience. I'm glad I did it. I look forward to hitting Yosemite someday.
Yeah. All my vacations, I will do my hardest to get to 1 national park at least.
Right. Do
at
it.
Least. So
keep working.
So far, so good.
And it's not that hard. It's actually a lot of times too. People feel like it's overwhelming. My wife felt it was like overwhelming when I first told her what I wanted to do. It really just took sitting down for a few hours and figuring it out.
It's not, pretty accessible. Apps, maps. You can do it all.
It's not Pinterest. As hard, right? A lot of times, we get. I think for me, I was held up by years because it seems so far away. It seems so impossible.
Yeah.
To really get out there till with COVID and everything going on. I never planned all the vacations I had planned. I couldn't really do the normal one. So I'm like, well, just go out west. You always talk about it. You're still healthy enough to do it. My dad had cancer at my age right now. So I'm looking at him like, Bill, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. You got the health right now to do these hikes. You got the health to do it now. So yeah, I just did it. But I think it's not as hard. Some of the things we look at, like we make it like it's a big deal and it's super hard. It's not as hard as we think. It's just a matter of getting started. So even for you, just making that plan that, hey, it's what I'm going to do, save up the money for whatever you're going to need and make it happen. Hope you enjoyed listening to this. You all have a great and blessed week.